dark history of the Black Death for hundreds of years, Europe was slowly becoming richer. Small villages grew into busy towns. New roads connected distant kingdoms. Great markets welcomed merchants from every direction. Ships crossed the Mediterranean Sea carrying silk, spices, precious stones, and rare goods from Asia. Every day, thousands of people traveled farther than ever before. Trade was changing the world. Most people believed that the future would be better than the past. But far beyond Europe's borders, another journey had already begun. It was silent. It was invisible. And no army could stop it. Historians believe the story of the Black Death began somewhere in Central Asia. The exact place remains uncertain, but the disease spread through regions connected by the great trade routes. For centuries, merchants had carried valuable goods across deserts, mountains, and vast plains. This time, however, something far more dangerous traveled with them. The bacteria responsible for the disease lived inside fleas. Those fleas often lived on black rats. As trading caravans moved from one city to another, rats traveled with them. They hid inside bags of grain, wooden carts, and ships loaded with cargo. No one noticed them. No one imagined they carried one of the deadliest diseases in human history. For many years, the trade routes had brought wealth and opportunity. Now, they carried death. In the year 1346, reports began to spread across parts of Asia and Eastern Europe. Entire communities became sick within days. Healthy people suddenly developed high fever. Pain spread through their bodies. Large dark swellings appeared under their arms and around their necks. Many victims died only a few days after the first symptoms appeared. Doctors were powerless. Religious leaders prayed. Families watched helplessly. Nothing seemed to stop the disease. Then came one of the most important moments in the history of Europe. On the northern coast of the Black Sea stood the busy trading port of Kaffa. Merchants from many countries came there to buy and sell valuable goods. Italian ships regularly sailed between Kaffa and ports across the Mediterranean. The city had become an important bridge between East and West. But in 1346, war reached its walls. The city was surrounded by the Mongol army. The siege lasted for months. Then, something unexpected happened inside the attacking camp. Soldiers began falling sick. One after another, they died from the mysterious disease. The army itself was being destroyed. Some historical accounts describe a terrifying decision. The attackers reportedly threw infected bodies over the city walls, hoping the disease would spread among the defenders. Historians still debate how much this action affected the outbreak inside the city. But one fact is certain. The plague entered Kaffa. Soon, merchants and sailors prepared to leave. They believed they were escaping the danger. Instead, they carried it with them. When the ships left the harbor, they looked completely ordinary. Their sails caught the wind. Their cargo was safely stored below deck. Sailors performed their daily work as always. Hidden deep inside the wooden ships, rats searched for food. The fleas remained unnoticed. The disease had found the perfect way to cross the sea. Europe had no idea what was coming. And within only a few years, millions of lives would be changed forever. In October 1347, several merchant ships arrived at the port of Messina, on the island of Sicily. At first, people were happy to see them. Ships from the east often brought valuable goods, rare fabrics, spices, and opportunities for trade. The harbor quickly became busy as workers prepared to unload the cargo. But something was terribly wrong. Many sailors never came ashore. Some were already dead. Others were too weak to stand. Those who were still alive had high fevers. Dark swellings covered their bodies. Some could barely speak. The smell of sickness filled the ships. The people of Messina quickly realized that these visitors had brought more than trade. Fear spread through the city. The ships were ordered to leave the harbor. But it was already too late. Rats had already escaped. Fleas had already found new hosts. Within days, the first local residents became sick. The disease moved with terrifying speed. Families watched healthy relatives fall ill in the morning and die only a few days later. Doctors tried every treatment they knew. Some burned herbs. Others opened wounds to let out what they believed was poisoned blood. Many prayed for a miracle. Nothing worked. As news spread, panic followed. Merchants fled to nearby towns. Travelers hurried along roads leading north. Some believed they were escaping the disease. Instead, many carried it with them. Every new town became another starting point. Every crowded market became another place where the plague could spread. Within months, the Black Death reached many of Europe's busiest ports. Genoa, Venice, Marseille, and other great trading cities welcomed ships that unknowingly carried infected rats and fleas. Trade had connected Europe like never before. Now those same connections became deadly. Roads that once carried wealth now carried fear. People began locking their doors. Churches filled with frightened families searching for hope. The sound of funeral bells became part of everyday life. Soon, entire neighborhoods fell silent. Shops closed. Markets disappeared. Schools stopped. Fields were left empty because there were not enough healthy workers to harvest the crops. Food became harder to find. In many places, the dead outnumbered the living. Gravediggers could no longer keep up with the number of bodies. Small cemeteries became full. New burial grounds had to be opened outside city walls. In some places, large mass graves were dug because there was simply no other choice. The plague showed no mercy. It did not care if someone was rich or poor. It entered castles and small wooden homes alike. Kings feared it. Priests feared it. Farmers feared it. No one felt safe. Rumors spread almost as quickly as the disease itself. Some believed the end of the world had come. Others thought God was punishing humanity for its sins. Many searched for someone to blame. Fear often replaced reason. Communities turned against outsiders. Innocent people were accused of causing the disaster without any evidence. Violence followed in several regions, adding even more tragedy to an already terrible time. Meanwhile, the plague continued its silent march across Europe. One city after another. One kingdom after another. Every week brought more deaths. Every month brought more despair. The continent that had once looked toward a bright future was now surrounded by uncertainty. People could no longer ask whether the disease would arrive. They could only wonder when it would reach their own door. And by 1348, the Black Death had reached the heart of Europe. Almost every week, another city reported the same terrible story. People who had been healthy only days before suddenly became weak. They developed a high fever. Pain spread through their bodies. Many had swollen lumps under their arms, neck, or legs. Most died within days. Doctors had no answers. Treatments failed. Fear grew everywhere. Markets closed. Schools shut down. Farms were abandoned. Families broke apart as death spread faster than society could respond. Entire streets became silent except for the sound of carts collecting bodies. Churches filled with prayer and desperation. Some believed it was divine punishment. Others turned to extreme religious acts. But nothing stopped the plague. It continued its relentless spread across France, England, the Holy Roman Empire, and beyond. By the time it slowed, millions were dead. In the early 1350s, the worst wave finally began to weaken. The plague did not disappear completely, but its spread slowed across Europe. Survivors stepped outside again, but the world had changed forever. Between 1/3 and 1/2 of Europe had died. Entire villages disappeared. Labor became scarce, and workers gained more power. Wages increased in many regions. Old social systems began to weaken. People began to question traditional beliefs. Medicine slowly shifted toward observation and experience. Early forms of quarantine appeared in some cities. Art and culture reflected death and suffering for generations. Europe eventually rebuilt itself. Cities grew again. Trade returned. Kingdoms recovered. But the world before the plague was gone forever. The Black Death had not only destroyed lives, it had reshaped history, society, economy, and the future of Europe. It remains one of the most important and devastating events ever recorded, reminding humanity how quickly everything can change and how deeply a single invisible force can transform the world. Which moment of this history surprised you the most? If you want more stories like this, subscribe and stay with us for the next journey into the past.